All right, welcome back to the channel. I know I haven't posted a video in a while, but I've just been really busy with work stuff and where I am in Europe right now, we're under a new lockdown, so the local hobby shops are closed, and as I've complained in previous videos, the mail system here is not very good, unfortunately, so ordering things is a bit of a pain, and I really would like to do some more hobby videos soon if I can, but doesn't seem to be a possibility. But anyway, today going to do a book review. Um, this is a really great book. Very expensive, unfortunately, one of these expensive academic books. So you can find it on a site called LibGen. It's on there. You can download a PDF, which not a big PDF fan in terms of reading, but you know, sometimes that's the only way you can get this stuff if you're outside of research libraries, that sort of thing. Fortunately, I was able to get a hard copy, but I had read the electronic version as well. And like the cover says, Holy Wars of King Wladislas and Sultan Murad. So this is the early period, covers the earlier period of the Ottoman and Hungarian wars in the 15th century. Normally, like historically and gaming wise, I've stuck with the 16th century, but this is a really interesting period too. I think this is a good period if in terms of gaming. If you're interested maybe in the medieval stuff and like early Renaissance, because this is kind of during that, maybe in hindsight we see it as sort of a transitional period. So you get some firearms starting to come in, but you still have a lot of mounted knights, um, and you have artillery, early artillery, that sort of thing. Um, I would call this sort of Renaissance warfare still, but anyway, I mean these things are sort of arbitrary, I guess, at a certain point. But it says the Ottoman and Christian conflict from 1438 to 1444. And that subtitle, I think, really undersells the book because it's just fantastic. The author, John Jefferson, he hasn't published a lot other than this, unfortunately. I was trying to see if he had any other maybe articles or maybe another book, because this book is a little older now. Let's see, publication I think is 2012, so coming up on 9 years. So it's been out for a little while, but fantastic book. And like I said, the subtitle kind of undersells it. Um, So if you're not aware of this period, this is the two crusades, probably kind of the last named crusades, and the last one ending, which is the total disaster for the Christian coalition at Varna. Um, but yeah, there's way more to it than that. Just running down the table of contents real quick to give you an idea. So he discusses a lot of the church politics around the crusading of this period, which is really interesting. I didn't know a lot about that. It covers the Council of Florence, the role of the popes in this period. Um, again, not really my area, especially, sort of papal history. Um, Quite interesting. Also, sort of maybe challenges some of like the notions we get from pop culture about like the Renaissance popes, how bad they were, and there was a lot of corruption in the church at that time. Don't get me wrong, but there's more to it. There's more to the story than what the some of these TV shows or these things that we get from public school might suggest, as is the case with most history. And this may be a tangent, but this is kind of the unfortunate thing when you read these academic books, which especially in Renaissance and early modern studies are really good and really balanced, I would say. And then you get these, unfortunately, these textbooks in American schools that aren't very good and kind of suck the fun out of history or kind of reduce the complexity of things. And anyway, that's sort of a tangent, but covers that, and then has a really, really great section on the Ottomans. And again, I mostly look at the 16th century, so this was a lot of new information even for me. So the 15th century Ottoman military, kind of a different animal compared to what comes up later. But if you've never read any of this kind of stuff, or you want to get into the Ottomans for wargaming or just out of historical curiosity, does a really good job just presenting it and explaining it really well, the organization, the different types of troops they had. Um, and This reminds me, he used a ton of languages. He had to learn a ton of languages for this book, which is probably why it's so impressive. Let me see if I can find the page real quick. Um, I'm not going to sit here and flip through it as I have it in my hands, as I do these things kind of off the cuff. But I mean, he had to learn Turkish, and luckily for him, this period of Turkish is quite easy to read for if you're just picking it up. But anyway, not to downplay that, but um, Turkish, Polish, German, Italian, and French. He in the introduction, he kind of explains all the different sources he used. It's really impressive. Certainly something I would aspire to if I ever get around to writing something. And then we've got a good explanation of Hungarian politics in this period, which is really complicated and tied up in all this crusading stuff. Just quickly, there's a bunch of succession crises in Hungary, the Kingdom of Hungary, in the early to mid 15th century. And there's civil wars, and they're fighting the Turks at the same time. It's to put it sort of casually, it's really crazy and very complicated. Um, and then he gets into that's sort of the introduction, lays the background, and then he gets into all of the campaigning. And this is something for this period that is really hard to find, where you get a military historian that really lays this out, all the maneuvers and the battles, and explains it in a way that, even if you just like reading military history, it's good. But as a war gamer, obviously, this is the kind of information we want, um, and especially for it to be so well presented in English, that's tremendous. So covers a bunch of the figures, so I'll just show them real quick on screen here. We've got there's Sultan Murad, it's a European uh, portrait down on the bottom. Couldn't find a good picture of King Władyslas III of Poland. That's his seal that they have on American Wikipedia. I guess maybe he didn't have a portrait painted in his lifetime because he was killed at Varna, which is what that Ottoman painting is showing. There's Murad in the throne, and there's unfortunately King Władyslas is beheaded. And then you have one of these other great crusading heroes of this period, John Hunyadi, another tremendous Hungarian commander. Um, and The book covers all that. So the Crusade of 1444, um, the excuse me, let me go in a better order here. Covers the Battle of Belgrade, which is a big uh, win for the Hungarians. Um, the long campaigns of Hunyadi, as they're known, the Varna Crusade in 1444, and the aftermath. And I haven't fully finished the book yet, so um, I'm just going off of what I've read so far. I'm about halfway through, but I really just wanted to do this review because it's just a fantastic book, and the footnotes in this. Now we're getting really nerdy here. Really explain everything well, and give a lot of clarity and the different sources and stuff. Um, I mean, it's a really incredible piece of scholarship, and it's also a great read, which is kind of hard sometimes when you get these academic histories, and the research is good, but the writing style is kind of dry and boring. Um, and So if it's not clear, highly recommend this book. I'll show the cover again. And like I said, I think this is like a $200 book. So, um, I'm kind of crazy. I would probably spend the money on it just to have it. But you can find it on that website I mentioned previously, LibGen, um, that has PDFs of a lot of things. I hope YouTube doesn't give me some kind of like strike for discussing that, but it's a great resource for a lot of these academic books that are, like I said, really expensive, or you got to get them from like a specialized library, and if you don't live like by university, or you can't like get a library card at the university library to do interlibrary loan or something, it can be really really hard to get your hands on these books. So and then just a couple other books I would recommend that's sort of related to this. So we've got Robert Frost. He wrote Oxford History of Poland and Lithuania. This is another book I have on my ever increasing stack that is really fantastic, um, but kind of overwhelming, I have to admit. I think I may have mentioned that book on the channel before, but it gets really nitty gritty into the political details, and for me at least, not being super well versed in that, which is why I got the book. It's kind of overwhelming, um, but that covers a lot of the same issues that I mentioned, like the civil war in Hungary, and the different like and the personal union with Poland, which happens under Wladislas III, or Władysław the Third. I'm not sure how you say that. If there's any Polish subscribers or viewers, you can correct me on that. And then another book is Crusade of Varna, 1443 to 45, by Colin Imber, who's a really good historian. But this is more a book of primary sources, so I know sometimes people don't really like that. I, that they find that kind of dry, or not very fun to read, because a lot of these historical documents are kind of not very fun to read, even like the chronicles and stuff. But that translates. It's been a little while since I picked that up to take a look at it, because, like I said, this isn't really my main area, but um, translates, I believe, some Turkish documents and some various European documents as well. And the um, actually Jefferson, who wrote this book, mentions that book in the introduction, because he said that book kind of came out while he was working on the manuscript of this. So, um, if you want like maybe a easier to access primary sources, like to for your gaming or just for your reading, um, that's a good resource there. And that's all I have to say on the book. It's really good. I really wish this author would put out maybe another book in the future. I don't know. I tried to look up some information about him to see if he was teaching at a university or something, but it looks like he was former or current in the military, U.S. military. So I don't know what he's doing as far as that goes. Um, but it kind of explains why this book is partially why it's so good, is because he can bring that real world experience and understands these sort of military things, which unfortunately a lot of historians in this period kind of neglect, because they don't really fully appreciate military history, unfortunately. But that's slowly changing in recent years. But yeah, so uh, if I, like I said, really great book. Yeah, you're probably your best bet, like I keep saying, is to get a PDF online, because unless you really want to spend the money, it's like $200 from the publisher Brill, or Amazon or something. So great book. And even if you don't read the whole thing cover to cover, I mean, even just the sections on the military organization, and or like specific chapters in the different battles, I think this is like a perfect resource for war gamers, and just to read. So that's the review. Like I said, I hope I can get to some more hobby stuff soon, but I don't know. Don't want to make any plans or promises. and I've talked about in streams, I really wanted to put together start doing some miniatures for doing the Battle of Ankara, which is another one of these things that is catching my interest, which had the covered in a stream, but I'll just quickly. You had the Ottomans and their Turkmen and actually Serbian levies fighting Timurids, the Turkic, their Turkic auxiliaries, if you will, defected to the Timurids, and then you have the Ottoman army and their Serbian sort of uh, yeah, levies, knights, basically, fighting against the Timurids. And I really wanted to try and model that, paint up some figures for that, and potentially to war game it down the line, because I think that'd be really great visually. But haven't been able to work on that, and unfortunately, so I hope I can do that in the future. And as soon as I can, I would like to do some more Horus Heresy, just because I like painting those miniatures. It's pretty relaxing. And yeah, anyway, hope you liked this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you.